discovered artifacts that, if documented, could lead to a dozen other ancient revelations. A hidden world waiting to be discovered. The stunning alignments of the sacred valley of Puebla Tlaxcala are once again evident as we study the new fire ceremony pictured on the map of Cuautinchan.
Images of heavenly bodies are found in tales, myths, and sacred texts in several Mesoamerican languages. Images include the sun, the moon, and even Venus. The impact of one constellation becomes apparent when we look at some of the ancient alignments found on the valley floor. 16th century historian Bernardino de Sahagún tells us of an important event called the New Fire Ceremony. Through the long nights of November and December, sky watchers of this ancient time observed the constellation Orion and waited for the precise night when the belt would line up vertically on the horizon.
Orion is our hunter, of course, the familiar belt stars and the sword. He is defending himself against Taurus. He's been placed in the sky because he was stung in the heel by Scorpio. Well, that's all Western lore. In the Mesoamerican world, the belt of Orion and the sword is the fire drill, the apparatus with which fire was drilled, which of course happened every 52 years.
This important ceremony, held every 52 years, was Toshiumolpilia, or the binding of the years. On this night, all fires in the provinces, towns, and houses are extinguished, and the priests observe the sky.
52 is an important number in ancient Mexico because it represents a cycle. 52 pre-Hispanic years is a century for us.
En este caso, en el solsticio de invierno,
on the winter solstice, the sun began rising in its extreme southernmost point on the horizon, and then it would stop. For the ancient inhabitants of this continent, this represented a great enigma. They thought that the entire universe stopped moving and feared that if this continued, the universe would be destroyed along with the world.
And it's a time when you're really hoping the sun is going to come back. A very tense time. I call it one of the hinges in the joint of time when you really mostly do need to pray to your gods for sustenance.
The chronicler, Sahagún, described the event as it occurred on a prominent hill.
During the last 5 days, preparations for this ceremony began. These preparations involved abstinence from work, fasting, ritual cleansing, ritual bloodletting, destruction of all household items, and observance of silence.
From a darkened hilltop, they watched as the three center stars of Orion's belt came up over the horizon in a vertical line. Priest astronomers first saw Amitabh, then Omilan, followed by Mintaka. They watched as the constellation Pleiades passed overhead and were assured that the world would continue for another 52 years. At this celestial sign, the natives performed a ritual called the Fuego Nuevo, or New Fire. This fire drill ceremony signaled a new beginning. With this ritual, they observed that the sun once again began to move northward.
The chroniclers tell us that the Aztecs threw out all of their mats, broke all of their plates, did what we like to do on New Year's Eve, make a resolution, start a new beginning. Very, very important in connection with that, and so is Orion's belt, because it's the drill, it's the celestial representation of the sticks that are used to make fire.
The priests lit fires across the Puebla Tlaxcala Valley in celebration. A priest would see fires at the pyramid of Cholula, the cleft of Tecajete, on Sitio Andrea, Teotzin, and eastward to the heavens. And one more, as part of the precise alignment, the mysterious hill Teoton.
And so the sacred place is christened again once every 52 years, when all the stars align with the man-made and natural markers, and a fire is lit on the hill Teoton, where heaven and earth meet.
The thing is that you're always facing a question. Was this ancient knowledge? Did this information really work its way down through these people and arrive into the 21st century intact? Well, not completely. We don't expect that. I think it'd be ridiculous to expect that it would be perfect. But sufficient amount of it did in this case.
The ancients carefully aligned Cholula's Great Pyramid with astronomical markers, the Pleiades, the constellation Orion, and the land sites of Teotzin, Sitio Andrea, and Tecajete. Is it coincidence that part of this precise alignment is the mysterious hill Teoton?
On the day of the sunrise-zenith passage, when the midday sun casts no shadow, the native sky watchers observed that the sun rose over La Malinche and followed a path over Montero Hill, over the hill at Teoton, and continued to the smoking mountain Popocatépetl.
A second line following the Cholula fire drill alignment passes from Cholula through Sitio Andrea, past Teoton, and westward. Continuing on that line, we discover an ancient archaeological site named Apatlaco. By connecting the outlying points, a shape develops, almost a rectangle. Inside the rectangle are formed two scalene triangles, which are identical in shape. Their corresponding sides and angles are equal, and both pairs of sides are parallel. At its centermost point is the hill Teoton. Amazingly, these angles are also measured in square root geometry. These are not approximate measurements, but precise, not an accident of nature, but something carefully and precisely planned and implemented. The Malinche Popocatépetl Zenith Sunrise Passage alignment rules the day. The Cholula, Andrea, Teoton, Apatlaco fire drill alignment rules the night. At Teoton, the domain of the day and the domain of the night converge into one universe.
From the hill Teoton, the ancients celebrated the sunrise-zenith passage. They also performed fire drill ceremonies as they saw the belt of Orion rise above the horizon. As the native people worshipped the sky and built temples to reflect the heavens, is it possible that they could find a way to bring the heavens to earth? Studies of culture in time and space lead us to believe that we need to take a careful look.
Once the cosmic order was realized by the Mesoamericans, recreation of the movement of the stars in terrestrial geography brought about the establishment of spaces and buildings that harmonized with it. This evolved into what we now know as celestography. This is space on the Earth related to the order of the stellar bodies, made divine by the native religion. It is believed that several ancient cultures created structures to imitate the constellation of Orion. Perhaps best known are the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. The three great pyramids match the stars of Orion's belt to perfection. A lesser-known example is found in Chaco Canyon in New Mexico.
Here we are in a case in which the canyon has 7 central populations that imitate the form of the constellation Orion. We are sure of this because the central star of the constellation Orion is Pueblo Bonito, which is the principal pueblo here in Choco Canyon.
The other two stars of Orion's belt line up with Pueblo del Arroyo and Chetroquetl.
They observed the constellation of Orion as it is shown from heaven. They invited it here to Earth.
The remarkable accuracy of this pattern on the ground reflects a surprisingly advanced understanding of astronomy and geometry by sky watchers around the world. The pattern of the constellation Orion is repeated once again on the Earth in ancient Mexico.
At the belt center was the star Al-Nilam. In a strategically placed site on the valley floor was Teoton. If Teoton represents Al-Nilam, then we should be able to find other ancient sites that represent the constellation Orion. Is it possible? Some scientists and researchers think so.
Native sky watchers observe the heavens by studying celestial images reflected in bowls of water. The resulting reflections were inverted mirror images. It becomes evident that these sky watchers use the same method of water reflecting the stars. Watching the heavens reflected in a pool of water is peculiar to Native Americans from Central America and the western parts of the United States.
They visualize the gods observing the heavens and earth from their dwellings, high above the valley floor. If we consider this celestial view through the heavens and Orion,
and project an image of the constellation onto the valley below, we would see it just as the ancient natives viewed it, in a bowl of water. The reversed constellation now lines up with sites on the valley floor. Our belt star, Alnitak, is aligned with Calpan, and now Mintaka is paired with the conical-shaped hill of Teteolotitlan.
the stars fit, the heavens and earth unite.
Is it coincidence or ancient knowledge? We may never know, but the number of both man-made and natural sites that find a match is remarkable. Anthropologists and astronomers agree that the pre-Columbian priests observed the sky to take solar and stellar readings for calendrical purposes. But is it possible that 2,000 years ago, these ancient people were capable of applying these observations and making the necessary mathematical calculations to perform extensive land surveys that would allow them to create these stunning alignments? Evidence of what lies in the Puebla-Tlaxcala Valley leads us to believe that the answer is yes.
Teoton, just like the other hills here in the Zapotec region, is depicted on the map of Huatinchan because it was on the route that the Toltecs followed on their way to Cholula.
What we see as an earthen hill today is painted on that ancient map not as a hill, but as a colossal stepped pyramid. Hundreds of ancient artifacts from 1200 to well over 2,000 years old have been found by the local residents all around the hill Teoton.
Every time someone comes to work his land, they find artifacts. It happens frequently in this region.
Working closely with the National Institute of Anthropology and History, the owners have placed these artifacts on display at their new museum in Yancuitlapan.
They have found pieces from the Teotihuacan era, Maya era, and Olmec era. And this tells us that Teoton was the center of an important cultural involvement in that time because many cultures came to make offerings at Teoton. The remains that are found around Teoton lead to the belief that it was one of the most important pyramids of the time because of its height.
Local farmers and construction workers often find artifacts while moving earth and ash, but the extraction by inexperienced residents prevents the care and study needed to answer essential questions.
You tell me you found that piece higher up in the dirt, but how much higher? We know it is more recent because of the way it is made, but a lot of the information is lost.
Objects found near Teoton have been associated with artifacts of the same time period from nearby Cholula. That a society lived and worshipped here is clear.
We know that the artifacts came from the houses that were 700 BC to 100 AD. We know they came from burials. We know where the sculptures were found.
The people believe that Teoton is a pyramid because it has been proven.
To be able to say that there is something inside or that under the hill there is a pyramid, the evidence does not allow us to say.
People still speak of it. There is a small chapel on the top of it, and they tell us that before building the chapel, there were fragments and floors and the remains of a temple.
When the rains come and cause the dirt to move, you can find the step form of the pyramid and the adobes, which are very similar to the pyramid of Cholula.
It wasn't a place where these people simply passed by, performed their ceremonies, and continued on their journey. There are plazas, there are these intricate stones that cover buildings, slopes of temples, which of course, after centuries